So without doing any further delay, we have our prominent experts and guests already in the Zoom house. So we'll start. With a brief introduction, I'll start and the moderator will take it forward in the interview format. So welcome to Global Development Dialogue, initiated by Honorable MP Sri Sujit Kumar, Rajya Sabha MP from Odisha, who conceptualized this global development dialogue to reach out to people and experts and legends like you who have graced the occasion today to discuss about several issues on socio-political economic development, including environment and sustainable development goals as well. During this Children's Week, given Kalinga Kusum Foundation's expertise in children's issues, he and his team wanted to expand this to a week-long celebration and observation and perhaps insights and reflective anecdotes and stories about what is happening in and around India and around the world on issues related to children. And interestingly, the 2019 UNICEF report on state of children talks about, focuses on about health and nutrition as the focus on Akanta Das, part of MP office, and also a teacher at Sri University as a faculty of public policy and management. I welcome you all to the forum. Today, I will just say one line and I will leave this to Sanjit Kumar sir. So this session on child health and nutrition, we have eminent speakers, Dr. Neelam, Padma, Bhushan, Awardee, and Neonatologist, Dr. Niladri Bhusan Parhi, Chief of Community Development, Vedanta Limited, Dr. Shariqua Yunus, Head Nutrition and School Feeding, World Food Program India, and World Food Program India has won the Nobel Peace Prize of this year. So, Shariqua ji, aapko badhai and congratulations for that. Dr. Budhan Murmu, Honorable MLA Saraskana, he's about to join. He's feeling a little bit of technical glitch there. Mr. Souvic Biswal, Honorable MLA Choudwar Cuttack has joined. Welcome, Biswal sir. And Mr. Sanjit Behera, Trustee, Kalinga Kusum Foundation and Director, Practical Action Foundation. And I will just briefly introduce Sanjit Kumar Behera sir, who is the moderator and speaker of the session. Sanjit Kumar Behera sir is actually someone, a multidisciplinary development expert, multi-skilled development expert, an engineer, a development expert from UNDP, an entrepreneur, founder trustee of Kalinga Kusum Foundation, which is a knowledge partner of this MP sir's initiative on global development dialogue, has been a director of practical action, which is a 55-year-old international charity located, headquartered in UK, member of the CSR Council, Government of Odisha. So Sanjit Kumar sir, over to you, take it forward. I'm Kamala Das saying thank you and welcome. We'll be listening intently and taking notes as well. Over to Sanjit sir, thank you.
Good afternoon and thank you Dr. Das for your introductory speech. I again welcome you all, the speakers and the participants who are in the Zoom house and who are also attending this session in the Facebook Live and other social media live. So as already introduced by Dr. Das, it's my privilege today to moderate this session as part of the Children's Week celebrated under the Global Development Dialogue. And today's special topic is child health and nutrition. And we have experts from the field, we have specialists, we have renowned researchers. And to begin with this session, it's my privilege again to introduce Professor Dr. Neelam Kler, Padma Bhushan Awardee and Neonatalogist. She is a neonatologist known for her pioneering work on neonatal intensive care and ventilation. She is credited with developing neonatal care to better the survival rate of extremely teeny preterm babies. She was honored with Padma Bhushan in 2014 for her services to the fields of medicine and neonatology. During a career spanning more than 25 years, Dr. Kler launched the Department of Neonatology at the Sri Gangaram Hospital in New Delhi. where she is presently holding the position of the chairperson. Yeah. She holds numerous offices in various capacities, including President of the National Neonatology Forum and member WHO Expert Committee on Prevention of Birth Defect in Southeast Asia. She is also a panel member of the Newborn and Child Health Strategy of the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. I welcome you, Dr. Kler. It's up to you now.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the kind introduction. And I'm really honored to be the part of this panel. And this subject, maternal and child malnutrition, is very close to my heart. And I'll be more than happy to contribute and to be the part of the panel. Thank you very much.
I think, ma'am, you can start with your part and later the other speakers will join.
Right. So, child and maternal malnutrition are the major contributors of disease burden in India. And if you look at the markers of malnutrition in developing countries, so there are 8 markers which are taken as the hallmark of malnutrition in this population. So low birth weight, which is a sort of a marker which starts at the beginning of your life, is something like 21% as per the statistics of 2017. And low birth weight is a major contributor to the malnutrition. And if you look at the total contribution because of low birth weight and neonatal diseases, it formulates something like 54% of the causes. And along with diarrhea, low respiratory tract infections is a major cause of beginning of malnutrition in under 5. Stunting, wasting, and underweight are taken as the 3 comprehensive markers of malnutrition, and all the 3, they mark either about the chronic malnutrition or acute malnutrition. Like stunting is something like 39% as per the 2017 statistics. And if we look at the decline in stunting, which is like has been from 1990 to 2017, analysis which was done at the launch of one of the very important project by India, one of the very sort of a project which to make a major dent in the malnutrition, the National Nutrition Project, which had as a perspective that we will decline the malnutrition and all the markers. Stunting, which is 39%, wasting, which is something like 15%, underweight, which is 32% as per the 2017 statistics. And if you look at the trends in the decline, right from 1990 to 2017, we can see that if these, a major thirst is not given in reducing these markers, or probably will not reach the goals which are set either by the national NNM mission or by the WHO UNICEF targets, which is in 2030, or even if we are looking at the sustainable development goals, which is again, they are not attainable. And if you look at the different states, the states which have higher STIs, which is socioeconomic development index, and which is based on markers like fertility rate in the women, per capita income, education of the mother, If we look at STIs, then the states which fall in the high STI have done better. If you look at the trends from 1990 to 2017, but if we look at even the high performing states also, the higher STI states also, if we go at the present rate, we will not be able to achieve the goals. Barring few of the markers, will not be able to reach the goals. Some of the other very important markers of malnutrition, like anemia in children and anemia in women in reproductive age group, are the two very important markers. As you know that, when we talk about malnutrition, we probably talk more about protein calorie malnutrition. And we forget that the most difficult and the most important malnutrition is the iron deficiency anemia. And iron deficiency anemia not only predisposes to disease burden and increased mortality, but also to the brain development. If we look at the loss of quality days because of the disease, which is calculated as days adjusted life quality years or dailies, we can see that it is a major contributor. So not only the mortality, like in under 5, the mortality which is contributed by the malnutrition is to the tune of 68%. And if we look at the present decline, then probably we'll not be able to achieve the national goals as well as the global goals by 2030. Another very important marker, which is a marker not only of the malnutrition, but also predisposes to diarrhea and malnutrition or lower respiratory tract, is the rates of exclusive breastfeeding. And right now, the rates of exclusive breastfeeding in India are to the tune of 53%. When we talk about exclusive breastfeeding, we are talking about those babies who are less than 6 months, who are given exclusive breast milk and not any other formula, fluids, or any other nutrition. Breastfeeding rates, if we are not able to pick up the breastfeeding rates, again, it will lead to increased mortality and morbidity, which is related to diarrhea and respiratory tract infection. Lastly, we shouldn't forget another malnutrition, which may look like the tip of the iceberg, and that is the overweight in children. The overweight in children is to the tune of 11.5%. It varies from different states, but it is the precursor of diabetes, metabolic syndromes, and if we are not able to curtail the overweight and obesity in children, then probably it will lead to obesity in adults and further diseases. When we talk about malnutrition, we talk mainly about stunting, underweight, and wasting. We do not talk about those who are stunted and overweight. And that is another major chunk of children who are stunted and they become overweight. And this is again a precursor for diabetes and metabolic syndrome, including cardiovascular disease, hypertension, and as you know, that non-communicable diseases are becoming now more a problem in developing countries. So if we look at present with our strategies and with our national programs, are we able to hit the under 5 child mortality? Are we able to reduce the low birth weight rates? And are we able to reduce the rates of stunting, wasting, or underweight is questionable. So the point is that, what is the quick way of hitting the malnutrition? Is it fortification? Or is it, mass supplementation? We know that a lot of programs which have been trying to hit the supplementation of protein calorie or the supplementation of iron during pregnancy or to the adolescent women had a moderate kind of a success. Another very important program, which was started basically to hit the malnutrition in women and children, has been a very progressive program of the Ministry of Health, which was basically to hit the nutrition of women and children. And as you know that, in spite of the Anganwadis, and in spite of, trying to provide nourishment to infant and young children, we've not been very successful in hitting it. And also we have forgotten a very important age, which is the first 6 months, because the most important, if we have to hit, or if we have to kill we have to take care of malnutrition right in the beginning, then probably we have to hit the first 6 months. That's one thing. And second is that we have to hit malnutrition in adolescent girls, in young girls, anemia in young girls, and in women in reproductive age group. And if we are not able to do that, probably will not be successful in challenging malnutrition in women and children. And if you're not able to, then the global burden of the disease will not be able to hit it. So what are the answers? The answers lie in today's discussion, and I would like to hear from people who are working at the ground, people who are working with the communities and the population, and maybe together we can find some solutions, and we are able to realize in the end.
Yes.
Dr. Sanjit, I was not very sure that by panel discussion you meant that I should make a formal presentation, or you will be asking questions and we'll be answering. So, because, I had one mail which just said that, we'll be talking about maternal and child malnutrition, but it didn't say that I need to make a formal presentation. So I'm just setting the ball, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions, there'll be a lot of discussion, because this is a subject which is very, very hot, and the portion program of the ministry, and I know the Prime Minister is very, he's also very proactive about this program. And I think one of the largest survey which was done with the global burden of disease and injuries, with the funding from, a huge funding from Bill Gates and Melinda Foundation, along with ICMR, in fact, looked at these 8 indicators at different stages, that is 1990 to 2000, 2000 to 2012, and then 2012 to 2017. So we could build the trends, that if we look at these trends, the way the things are behaving, whether we are looking at low birth weight rates, or we are looking at anemia in reproductive age, or we are looking at anemia in children, the way the trends are, the way the things are falling, will not be able to meet most of these indicators, barring, I think, few states. Unfortunately, Odisha doesn't fall in those states, because the states which are performing little better are actually very tiny states like Sikkim, Goa, Tamil Nadu. Of course, Tamil Nadu is different. But the states which are not performing well, like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, which are like huge states, which are like big states, they unfortunately, when we look at the socio-developmental indicators, they are not performing very well. And that is why obviously they are also not performing very well on all these indicators. So fortification, probably, maybe at some stage we can talk about. That's more at the national or at a more larger perspective. But when we talk, I think there are a lot of solutions. Like, I work with the NGO in Rajasthan, because Rajasthan has major chunk of malnutrition. And, they have Fulwadis. And in these villages, there are also Anganwadis. And many of these Anganwadis, like the Anganwadi workers, they work in cohesion with the Fulwadi workers so that, they are able to provide, because in many of these Anganwadis are either locked or they don't have the perspective, and they work together. And they've shown that if you work with infants and young children, that is 6 months to 2 years, you can bring down the malnutrition, you can bring down the stunting rates, underweight, wasting. Of course, stunting takes much longer time, but underweight and wasting, you can show the results. I mean, like just by providing slightly rich in protein and slightly high caloric food to the young infant and children, if you provide, you can bring down the rates. So, like in many of these small villages, when we were initially doing the survey, we found that, the women, the tribal women, during the daytime, they go to the forest to pick up the wood for cooking. And the men are tribal, migrant workers. They go and work in other states or bigger cities. And with the result, there is nobody to cook for the young child. And they're dependent on an older or elder sibling who's 8 years or 10 years or 5 years to provide the food. So providing food to the young children, especially in those areas where the availability of food is not there. Another example is that, in those states where the women are more, they are like, look at, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, where women are educated, women are more empowered. They are able to provide better nourishment to their children, especially to the girl child. And one of the study, in fact, a large study showed that it is not just dependent on the socioeconomic indicators, but it is also dependent on, a lot dependent upon the empowerment of women, the education of women. And if the women are empowered, probably economically also, they are more independent and they can provide. If we look at low birth weight rates, we talk mainly about the low birth weight rates, and we do not talk about another very important contributor, and that is those babies or those children who are born premature or before the time. And one of the malnutrition indicator which can help us in bringing down the prematurity rate is anemia in reproductive age. So anemia, which is to the tune of almost 60% in women in the age group 15 to 45, we can bring down the anemia, we can bring down the prematurity rate, we can bring down the low birth weight rate, and that can really help in a large this thing to reduce malnutrition in or malnutrition under 5 and mortality and morbidity in this very important age group. So with that, I would like the other panelists to make their comments and make their presentation. And if there any question, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Kler, for your time, for your insight, and particularly you open up the session to all for discussion. Your presence itself is encouraging, and that will give the rest of the participants, like a good mood to come up with their inputs. Let me correct one thing. I'm not a doctor. I'm engineer turned a development professional. But today's session is biggest of this series, and we have 4 doctors. 3 are the practitioners and 1 from the research background. So now it's time to thank you again and invite Dr. Niladri Bhushan Parhi, Chief of Community Development, Vedanta Limited. Dr. Niladri has done his PhD in sociology and MBA in HR, And since last 2 decades, he has been working in the field of CSR, sustainability, resettlement and rehabilitation, and also corporate communication. He has worked in the reputed organizations like Tata Steel, Jindal Steel and Power, ArcelorMittal, SR Steel, Dalmia and all. And he had authored good books like Pen, Politics and Persistence, All for a Plot of Land, Culture and Development in Tribal Perspective. He has authored number of articles in primitive tribes, culture and social settings. So I would now invite Dr. Niladri to put his thoughts on the topic, and then maybe at the end of the speaker's term, we will ask all participants to raise their questions. Dr. Niladri, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sanjit. So it was a nice introduction. So I was just hearing while Dr. Nilka was sharing. She was presenting a lot of data. So it was very impressive when she was presenting. She was relating the global context. So I would, first of all, in this session, I will give congratulations to the Honorable MP, Mr. Sujit Kumar, who has taken this initiative. And it's really the need of the hour. And it has become a topic nowadays. And by initiating this kind of workshop, I think will definitely help a lot of people to gather some kind of information and sharing knowledges and take advantage out of it. So many dignitaries are there. So I think I will speak very few things on my personal experience. Since last 20 years, I have been worked in Odisha and in different corporate houses. So while associating with the corporate houses, particularly in the context of community development and stakeholder management, health plays a very vital role. And while we say health, definitely women and child comes to our, most of the corporates, they give priority because when we design our CSR program, corporate social responsibility, maybe the program, at that time, women empowerment is everyone works. And another segment is livelihood we work and health. So these three things along with education plays a very critical role. So why this nutrition and child health is very important? Because it is related to livelihood, it is related to women empowerment, it is also related to our health and education vertical. So that is why its presence in ground plays a very important role in the development professionals. So when I see the children, basically everyone sees that children is the hope of future, hope of the world and nation. And nutrition to a child means not only that health, but also it is the growth and development. And when we are saying growth and development, it also refers to cognitive development, physical development, mental development of a child. So that is why this is very crucial. And during childhood, normally what happens, undernutrition causes children to have less energy and interest to learn. So that negatively influences the cognitive development and academic performance of the child. So this is basically the background for which we usually give importance on the child health and nutrition. So if you look at the local context, in most of the corporate houses, while they have their establishment, 70–80% belongs to tribal population or below poverty line people, where this is a major need and this is major issue. So to address that issue, we work in different way, maybe through supplementation of nutrition. We provide, for example, if you see the Vedanta, we have presence in Kalahandi. So in Kalahandi, this plant is for last 15–16 years. For last 7–8 years, they had a midday meal program, and we are spending more than 4 to 5 crores for annum for this, because since it is a tribal belt and nutrition was really an issue, and we were providing better food, quality food, and reaching to the child itself. So that was a program we are running. Now what is happening? we are doing the similar kind of thing, but we are trying to collaborate with government. We are trying to leverage the resources wherever it is there, because there should not be any duplication. We should supplement each other. So now what is the major programs if you look at? We have a very good flagship program, that is Non-Ghar. So in some cases it is greenfield, and some cases there are already Anganwadis and we are converting to it Non-Ghars. So this is one of the flagship program of our chairman, Mr. Anil Agrawal. And in India, we have a target of 4,000 model Non-Ghars. So in Non-Ghars, apart from the government schemes and policies, what we do, we have developed kitchen garden. We have developed ensuring the immunization, vaccination, and for pregnant women particularly, we are taking care of their health food, how their healthy food, how they can get it. That's why inside our Non-Ghar also we have a vision of having a kitchen garden also. So this is one thing that inside our Non-Ghar, apart from the children's curriculum as well as their toys and other things, these are very additional things that we have started developing, keeping in view that this will help for the overall development of the child. So that's number one. Second one is, if you look at now, government has livelihood initiatives, that is Mo Upakari Bagicha. There is a scheme of government of Odisha. So what we have done, we have tried that livelihood initiative, collaborating with our health project. How this project will create an interest among the women for their own self, apart from the livelihood. Livelihood will definitely be there, policies there, and people will take care of. But we try to focus how along with the livelihood, people will be cautious and they will use their own kitchen gardens product for the consumption. So that kind of awareness, that was the need, and we try to create through our CSR initiatives. Second one is when our education support systems are there, particularly in tribal areas, what we do, it is geographically very distance, one village to another village. So government has a very structured pro forma that the Anganwadi will be there if that population will be this much. But what we have developed, 36 CCC we are saying, that is child care center, we have developed on our own. So where these people were not coming to Anganwadis, for there were malnutrition and health issues were there. So for their development of the children, what we have done, we have initiated a CCC. That is one of the major program in our CSR. So in that, along with food, we are also providing them teachers, taking care of them, toy materials, creating awareness among their parents, and taking care of their women, also their mothers also. So these are the holistic approach we are taking in our CSR umbrella. So definitely now the time has come, we need to integrate our livelihood, women empowerment, and health projects in such a way so that from the in one family, how we can have a overall development of the family. So when we are saying nutrition and child health, I think every corporate houses or development practitioners, the time has come now, we need to take care of the holistic development of one family. And when we'll take care of that, obviously health and child will automatically be a issue, and that will be addressed. So for any development professional, what I mean in my last 2 decades of working in different corporate houses, we need to have a very clear of our baseline survey and need assessment. What is the need in the area? Maybe in some pockets, they might be very well in terms of nutrition and other things, but in other pocket, there is a requirement of that. So we need to very clearly understand and have a baseline survey and need assessment of the area, and trying to integrate all the policies and the resources that are available, and how it can be supplemented instead of duplication. So I think I enjoyed by sharing, and I would be loving to hear from all other dignitaries present here. So thank you so much. Once again, I thank you, Mr. Sujit Kumar and his team for this grand organizing this grand event. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Niladri, for your inputs. You mostly talked about the convergence of program, and you are working currently in the tribal areas, and which is also the area of our Honorable MP, Shri Sujit Kumar. Yeah. So thank you again, and now
Thank you.
it's time to invite Honorable MLA from Biswal to share his input on the topic. Youngest lawmaker, Mr. Souvic Biswal.
Thank you very much, Sri Sanjit ji. Good evening, Bande Utkal Janani. My humble pranam to Honorable MP Sri Sujit Kumar sir for conceptualizing this unique week-long series on children. My respectful pranam to Dr. Neelam ji, Dr. Niladri ji, Dr. Shariqua ji, Dr. Budhan ji, and the moderator, Sri Sanjit ji. I thank the partners, Sri University, Xavier's University, and Kalinga Kusum Foundation for coming together and bringing all of us together to learn from each other and prepare a way forward. As you already know, I am Souvic Biswal, youngest MLA of the Odisha Budhan Sabha, have been elected by my people in Choudwar Cuttack constituency to take forward the legacy of my father, Sri Prabhat Ranjan Biswal, and contribute to the vision of my beloved leader and Chief Minister Sri Naveen Patnaik. My government is a leader in developing specific budgetary provisions on gender, children, and nutrition. I have come here to listen to the eminent experts in the panel and learn. I would like you all to guide me on what can I do as an MLA to make my constituency as a child-friendly constituency, and how best we can bring to the mainstream, how best we can bring children to the mainstream of decision making and encourage them to participate in school and civic affairs. Thank you very much for inviting me today in this Zoom webinar. Thank you very much once again, Sri Sanjit ji, and once again my humble pranam to Honorable MP Sri Sujit Kumar sir. Jai Jagannath, namaskar.
Thank you, Souvic, and really you inspired by just being here, being the youngest MLA, and ready to learn and ready to accept support from the experts. That itself is a great input, and obviously in the long run, way forward, there are experts who will be coming with you and will be happy to support you to make your constituency again maybe the second child-friendly constituency in the state. Thank you, Souvic.
Thank you once again.
Yeah. So now it's time for inviting Dr. Budhan Murmu, Honorable MLA Saraskana. It's a very good combination. Doctor by profession, now the lawmaker for the state. He has worked in the profession for last 27 years and more in the healthcare system, and particularly in the travel dominated district like Mayurbhanj. So it's my privilege to invite Dr. Budhan Murmu to share his thoughts, his experience and ideas on the topic given. Dr. Budhan Murmu.
Okay. Thank you, and good afternoon to all the participants of this video conference. Thanks a lot. You have organized a nice thing, very nice thing. Only not nice thing, very nice thing. So first of all, I thank all the participants. They have contributed their times and participated nicely and sharing their experiences in their life. So I like to, may I audible to everyone? Hello.
Yes, yes. Please.
Am I audible to
Yes,
everyone? Okay, thanks.
Yes, yes.
So,
Yeah.
So I am MLA of a constituency as well as a experienced doctor of 27 years. You have already explained about me, and also I have experienced that I was state trainer regarding IMLCI and all these topics regarding nutrition. I would like to share my personal experience in my life that so many causes are there which are the contributing factors regarding malnutrition of the children. First of all, low birth weight and premature, these two things are most vulnerable and eligible points. That low birth weight sorry hello, one is
It's okay. It's okay. Please
only
continue.
low birth weight and severely low birth weight between 2.5 to 2 kg is low birth weight, below 2 kg is severe low birth weight. This continues in their life, which may lead to malnutrition. And one thing is premature delivery before 28 weeks or something else. Before duration delivery may cause low birth weight, may lead to malnutrition. Two things, low birth weight and premature. These two things may lead to malnutrition. Otherwise, mature child may also face malnutrition in their life regarding to or related to dietary source. Breastfeeding is most important, and other weaning food, then after other normal foods. So all these things related to weight per age, this leads to malnutrition in calculation at growth monitoring chart. Growth monitoring chart is a part which indicates what is the status of the child. Weight as per age. Previously it was normal, first, second, third, fourth, grade 4 up to grade 4 was there, but at present it is related to colors, green, yellow and orange. Most important is that no children should be diverted to orange from yellow. We should restrict them in between orange and give emphasis to orange students, yellow children to bring down them to green zone. As per the growth monitoring chart, this is most vulnerable. And what happens in between? Some children remain in parallel graph. First, second, third, 3 consecutive weight remains as per the age in parallel way. They may be counted as malnutrition and they should be treated and suspected towards tuberculosis. Maybe their parents or neighbors whom maybe there is a tuberculosis, they should be suspected and treated in this way also. Only diet is not responsible. Any associated factors, digestive factor or related to tuberculosis in surrounding, they should be treated as such in the related to tuberculosis. So many factors are there. We have to look to treat them, to grow them and look after them. So many things are there. We have to take step between 5 years that growth monitoring chart and Anganwadi centers are responsible. Though we are thinking that Anganwadi centers are to treat or teach or take care of the children between below 6 years, but our growth monitoring chart and malnutrition system, protein energy malnutrition, that supports us till age of 5. So we have to take responsibility of all the children below 5 years, how to take care of and what is the nutrition system as per their age group. Weaning food is the most responsible person, but we have to take care of the weaning food. In which age, what is the weaning food for that system, and what is the system? Not only to give them and take eat these things. How, what is the mechanism or how is the system? How to behave the children, and how to take food in this on that age. So many things are there to take care of. And by the by, simultaneously, physical condition, immunization, all these things, and their habit and habitats, cleanliness, many factors are there to take care of those children below 5 years, not to come down under malnutrition, and all these children coming under the malnutrition or protein malnutrition are responsible for the infectious stage. Their immunity system is low, so they are most prone, so most responsible or risky factor. They may come under infection, and by the way, come into the sickness and dietary, the nausea or appetite come down. So gradually they come into the malnutrition level. So we have to take care of them, not to come under malnutrition. So we have to take responsible and make any system to communicate all the people, all the mothers and the parents, all the peoples, what to do, not come into the malnutrition level, and futurely not to face any hazards in their life. So I wish all the participants of our BC should take care and responsible and take any steps. All the persons, all the people, all the parents, all the children, how to face the malnutrition or nutritious status, to communicate all the people. So we have to take any initial step or further step, how to convert malnutrition people to children to normal health according to their age. So I thankful all the participants of our BC, and hoping this program will continue and you will remind us in future. Thank you. Thank you, Sanjit ji. Thank you, Sanjit Behera.
That you are interested to work on the topic, and you talked about habit and habitat for the children. It's a great thing. It has to be taken care of. And also you talked about responsibility and the system. Thank that now you are a lawmaker, you are a practitioner in the field. Now some of the systems can be really changed for good with your intervention, with your inputs. Thank you again. And now let's listen to our next speaker, Dr. Shariqua Yunus, Head Nutrition and School Feeding, WFP India. Dr. Shariqua, just.
Okay.
Dr. Shariqua, she is also a gold medalist in community medicine and subsequently did her post-graduation in community medicine from the Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College. She holds a diploma in public health nutrition from the Public Health Foundation of India and has also been trained on the management of nutrition in emergency by the University College of London and Disaster Preparedness Center. She has worked on the ASA project under the National Rural Health Mission with the Training Division, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. She has also worked at the focal point for nutrition at the World Health Organization in the Country Office of India. And currently she is working as the head of the nutrition and School Feeding Unit at the World Food Program India office. She has to her credit several research papers in various national and international journals. Her main areas of interest are maternal and child health, infant and young child feeding, and links between disease and nutrition. The best profile to the topic we have chosen for today. So over to Dr. Shariqua.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Behera, for that extremely kind introduction, and thank you also for giving the World Food Program an opportunity to share some of our thoughts on how we think child nutrition can be best addressed in the country, and in particular in Orissa. I'd perhaps break down what I want to say into 3 to 4 points. First, I wanted to dwell a bit on the prevalence of malnutrition in Odisha, and a lot of that has already been captured by the first speaker, so I'll sort of go through it briefly. I then wanted to also talk briefly about the interconnectedness of the Sustainable Development Goals, and how, if we address SDG 2, what does it mean for addressing the other Sustainable Development Goals? Then I wanted to talk a bit about the impact of malnutrition, and finally round it off by what is it exactly that the World Food Program is doing in India. Now, coming to the prevalence of malnutrition in Orissa, if I look at data between the National Family Health Survey 3, which was done in 2005-06, and the latest round of the National Family Health Survey, which was done in 2015-16, Odisha has made good progress. If I look at the prevalence of anemia, it's reduced from 65% to 44.6% in children less than 5 years of age. The prevalence of stunting has reduced from 45% in 2005-06 to 34% in 2015-16. Wasting, unfortunately, has gone up. Wasting is a predictor of mortality, and it's an indicator which takes into account both weight as well as height. So the prevalence of wasting, unfortunately, in the state of Odisha has gone up from 19.6 to 20.4%. Underweight has again come down from 41% approximately to about 34.4%. So the movement of the state, apart from its movement on wasting, is more or less in the right direction. However, the pace of improvement in malnutrition has been slow. Over a period of 10 years, the average rate of reduction that we're talking about is about 9 percentage points, which is roughly about 1 percentage point or even less per annum. So the rate of reduction needs to be increased. And Odisha in the recent past has come up with great policy intervention in this direction. The latest being the launch of the SOPAN strategy in March in this year. SOPAN stands for Strategy for Odisha's Pathway to Accelerated Nutrition. So what it actually conveys is that the state understands that malnutrition is an issue, and the state wants to address malnutrition, and therefore the focus of the state is on several malnutrition indicators and strategies and how best to address that. Now coming to the Sustainable Development Goals. So the Sustainable Development Goal, which touches malnutrition or food security, is Sustainable Development Goal 2. Within Sustainable Development Goal 2, there's Target 2.2, which talks about ending all forms of malnutrition, including achieving by 2025 the internationally agreed targets on stunting and wasting in children under 5 years of age, and addressing the nutritional needs of adolescent girls, pregnant and lactating women, and older persons. And India is a signatory to the Sustainable Development Goals. What I want to talk a bit about is how the Sustainable Development Goals, especially the targets on malnutrition, are intertwined with other Sustainable Development Goals. So India has to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals on malnutrition, but if it fails to, or it does not succeed in achieving some of those Sustainable Development Goals, it also has impacts on other Sustainable Development Goals, which is the basic point that I'm trying to put across. So the nutrition element of SDG 2 is closely intertwined with Sustainable Development Goal 3 on health, Sustainable Development Goal 4 on education, Sustainable Development Goal 6 on drinking water and sanitation, and Sustainable Development Goal 7 on access to affordable, reliable, sustainable and modern energy for all. Sustainable Development 9 as well on supporting innovations on infrastructure and industry. So there's a huge interconnectedness between the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's not just enough to make progress on one Sustainable Development Goal, but you have to also ensure that whatever progress is being made on one sustainable goal needs to be consistent in order to influence the other Sustainable Development Goals. Now coming on to what is the impact of malnutrition on children and how does it affect us as a nation. So what we know about malnutrition is that it influences an individual socially as well as economically. Productive capacity is affected due to low energy, slower brain development and morbidity. Poorly developed brains generate pressure on schools due to low school performance, grade repetition, and even causes early dropouts of from school despite availability of free education. Malnourished, stunted, weak individuals have lowered self-esteem and confidence. They tend to retreat from the society with little or no contribution towards nation building. Malnutrition impairs immunity, increasing disease and disability. And it causes sheer wastage of human capability while being a burden on the economy. The costs of malnutrition have been studied to be huge in terms of impacting the gross domestic product of a country depending on location and sector. So it's very important to address malnutrition not only from an individual perspective but also from a national perspective, because it influences national economic development and state economic development. In terms of the interventions which could be out there for addressing malnutrition, and when we talk about the core technical interventions, we usually divide them into nutrition-specific interventions and nutrition-sensitive interventions. The nutrition-specific interventions are 10 evidence-based interventions which come from a core medical perspective. So it talks about iron folic acid supplementation, it talks about appropriate infant and young child feeding practices, talks about treatment of severe acute malnutrition, etc. But data also shows us that even if these 10 evidence-based nutrition-specific interventions were to be brought to scale, we would only be successful in decreasing child deaths by about 15% and stunting by about 20%. So the remaining 80% still needs to be addressed. And how is it that we could address? And that is where we talk about various nutrition-sensitive interventions. So whatever is being done for societies, for children, for community, it's important to bring in a nutrition perspective or a nutrition angle, because that will go so far in terms of preventing malnutrition and in accelerating progress towards ending it in all its form. Now, lastly, let me just move on to what is it that the World Food Programme in India does as far as addressing malnutrition in children is concerned. For those of you who may not know, the World Food Programme is the food aid arm of the United Nations. We've had presence in India since 1963. In the initial years, we were heavily involved in food aid in the country because that is what the country required at that particular stage. However, over the years, India has reached a middle income country status, and therefore the need or dependency on another agency bringing in food into the country has reduced. So since 2012, as an organization, we've moved completely away from food aid into providing technical assistance to the government, both at the national as well as at the state level. Our focus, if I were to summarize it in a couple of lines, is on trying to improve the efficiency and the nutritional effectiveness of the food-based safety nets. Now, talking about the food-based safety nets, there are two food-based safety nets which largely touch children. One is the Integrated Child Development Services Scheme, which touches children less than 6 years of age. And the other is the Midday Meal Program, which caters to children studying between grades 1 to 8th, largely in terms of age, with covering children between 6 to 14 years of age. So the focus has been in trying to bring more nutritional perspective in these schemes. Now, looking at what is the sort of work that we do in the ICDS or the age group which caters to the ICDS, we look at ensuring that it is the right food which is given to children. We did an analysis sometime last year where we looked at what is the food which is provided as take-home rations to children between 6 to 36 months of age. And the idea behind doing that was multifold. One was that we wanted to understand what different states are giving and how does it compare with the guidelines which have been laid down by the center, the caloric and the protein norms which have been laid down by the center. What we also then wanted to do was to try and understand how these products compare with what are the global guidelines for what children should be receiving from such schemes. So we undertook this analysis, and there were some very interesting findings. One was that most of the states, because the ICDS, as is the MDM, is a part of the National Food Security Act, most of the states meet the caloric and protein norms which have been laid down by the government on a broader level. But when you try and go into the details of how the caloric and the protein norms are being met, that is where there were quite a few surprises which came in, and as they say, the devil is in the detail. So to provide a 500 kilocalorie norm, what most of the states are doing is that they're pumping in huge amounts of sugar. Now, sugar doesn't really add any nutritional value to the child. The other thing that we discovered was that the quality of protein that was being given through the THR to young children was very poor. I mean, milk is a very good source of protein. There were very few states which were providing milk as a part of the take-home rations. The take-home rations were not necessarily meeting, let's say, the fat content guidelines that are recommended globally. There were huge issues as far as the quality assurance and the quality control of the products was concerned. Most of the states were either relying on a centralized model where the THR was being procured from private sector companies, or they were relying on self-help groups. And I'm not cribbing about any of the models. Both these models can be made to work beautifully if the right sort of systems are in place. So learning from this study, what we are now trying to do in many states, including in Orissa, is to try and put forth through the ICDS a product which is nutritious for young children, a product which is quality assured, and a product which is wanted by the community. Because if the community does not want a product, irrespective of how much it is supplied, and if it does not cater to the taste of the community, you won't be able to make any change. The other thing that the study also brought forth was that this product is being given to young children. The product, therefore, has a huge potential to improve complementary feeding practices. But as a country, we are not connecting the dots between what is being given through the ICDS and how it could improve complementary feeding practices, and ultimately how it could lead to prevention of malnutrition. So there's a huge disconnect. It's just some food which is being given out. Communities don't even realize the importance of food. So that's another area that WFP is working on. Social behavior change communication, working with communities, caregivers, families. That's a very, very integral part of our work. Now, coming to school-age children and what is it that we do there? We work on setting up Nutri gardens and kitchen gardens in schools so that they're fresh vegetables are available to schools, which can be made a part of the midday meal. We work on the capacity building of the cook-cum helpers. Again, with school-age children, knowing that they are potent agents of change, they can take messages back to their families. We work a huge amount on social behavior change communication. And last but not the least, and why I'm calling it last, because I heard the first speaker also talk about it, we work a lot on food fortification. In fact, some of the very initial work in the area of rice fortification is what we've done in Orissa through some of the pilots that we had in the districts of Gajapati and Dhenkanal. And those pilots have actually led to formulation of national level schemes on food fortification. So that's another area that we work on. Food fortification is something that is not limited in our, let's say, tool basket to only school feeding, to the school feeding age group, but it also is rolled out to the younger children. I think I've sort of gone on a lot for a pretty long monologue. I'll stop here and I'll be happy to answer any questions at a later point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shariqua, for your valuable inputs. You talked about the specific prevalence of malnutrition in Odisha, the impact of malnutrition, and also the program and the activity that World Food Program is doing or supporting the nation and the states in terms of this specific topic. Thank you again, Dr. Shariqua, and now it's time to open the floor for question and answer. There are participants from different fields, there are practitioners, researchers, students, and many others. So I would open the floor. Please raise hands so that we'll unmute the concerned person, or he or she can unmute herself and then read the question. In the chat box, I have dropped a question that was asked in the Facebook Live. So any of the speaker can please check the question in the chat box of this Zoom and can address the queries. So now it's open to all for question and answer session. Yes, anyone want to ask any question, please? If no, can any of our speaker address the question that I have put in the chat box, or let me read the question. Mr. Govinda Sahu has raised a question about, still India is one of the worst affected country in hunger. Global Health Hunger Index indicates that we are lagging behind countries like Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka and all. Our position is 94 among 107 countries. So this was the question. The question is, please frame novel laws to make food really available to all and contribute to achieve the goal of a hunger-free nation. These are the question from Govinda Sahu. Dr. Das, are you around? Am I audible? Professor Das. Sunil?
Yes, am I audible, sir? Sanjit, sir?
Okay. So then let's go to the conclusion. You can extend vote of thanks and then we can conclude the session at by 5:30.
Okay.
Yes, Sanjit.
Yeah,
good evening.
someone,
I am Sahu.
Please.
Yeah, actually,
It's not
I just
audible.
want to know one thing. Is very am I audible?
No, Sambit, Mr. Sambit, your voice is breaking.
Okay. Now it is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Please continue.
Yeah, I just want to know, is there any pilot project has been implemented in any part? But
Mr. Sambit.
Yeah, is it audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to know, is any project in any tribal district, if it is, so that, okay.
Can you inbox in the chat box?
Okay, yes, I will end.
Please. Yeah. So, Professor Das, let's continue, and maybe at the end we can answer Mr. Sambit Naik.
Okay, but I had a little bit of questions, but
okay, then please reiterate. Yeah.
So the question is that why actually Odisha is going, and what we need to do to actually have no malnutrition. So that is the broad question, but anyone who can take it up. That is a question actually from a student in Sri University.
Okay.
Can I, this is Shariqua, can I try and attempt to answer that question?
Please.
Sure. So no, I just wanted to say that Odisha is on the right track as far as addressing malnutrition is concerned. The data shows that Odisha is moving in the right direction. Perhaps the pace of progress may have been slow, but it's by and large in the right direction. Odisha is also very progressive in terms of recognizing malnutrition as an issue and then wanting to address it. And the Sopan strategy, as I talked about, or some of the other interventions that the state government of Odisha has taken, they're all steps in the right direction. I think probably the problem which is there in most of the country and which may also be true in Odisha is that we do have a lot of programs and policies in place, but the programs and policies lack what we in the development sector space call as C-square IQ. So it lacks consistency in implementation, it lacks continuity in implementation, it lacks intensity, and it lacks quality. So we are very good paper tigers, but if we could make them better projects implemented on the ground with quality, consistency, and continuity, I think that is largely the issue where we lag behind. That's one point that I would want to make. The other point is somehow the nutrition space has always been seen as a space of nutrition or malnutrition is seen as a medical problem. It is a medical problem. Nonetheless, there are other interventions in terms of addressing some of the underlying causes of malnutrition or the basic causes of malnutrition, which are rooted in the society that needs to be taken care of as well. So things like the right age of marriage, things like ensuring that whatever food-based safety net is in place, there's a prism of nutrition which is applied to it. So those nutrition-sensitive interventions also need to be more broadly integrated into the policies. Over.
Sanjit, I just wanted to make a comment.
Please.
I mean, of course, Shariqua has very nicely put what should be done. But just to complement the state of Odisha, the very fact that the policymakers are taking a heed of malnutrition in the state, and this whole program and this panel discussion, which has not only included the academicians or public health people, but also the local MLA and the MP taking up, so as to focus on malnutrition. I think itself speaks that the state is making a progress or is aware of taking a cognizance of it. I think that's a step in the right direction. I would compliment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Any more questions from any of the participants? Yeah, I think we are coming.
Sir, Sambit Naik has a question. He has
Okay,
just
please.
posted on chat.
Okay, so let me read it here.
Yes, sir.
Any model project has been implemented by any organization by utilizing local traditional food package or locally available resources for addressing the malnutrition and food security of the tribal community. I hope the question is clear to all. Any model project implemented taking the local traditional food package or the food security of the tribal community.
Will that answer be towards millet mission, the ragi, all that answer would be closer to that, or something else that Samit sir is asking?
I think, yeah, Avinash has a question too.
Good evening, all. Actually, I want to just add a point that Nandi Foundation and Avanta Foundation has already implemented that is Sishu Vikas chart, particularly during the cohort study and situational analysis over here in Thwamul Rampur and different places of Koraput. So I also during my fellowship program, I and some of my friends also already done this implementation of Sishu Vikas chart, particularly in Thwamul Rampur and some parts of Bhavani Patna rural segment, where we have implemented this Sishu Vikas chart and already traced the children 0 to 2 years. So in comparison to the Sishu Vikas chart and without using the Sishu Vikas chart, so Sishu Vikas chart is helping the mothers to understand the situation of the child. So actually child is at green zone or yellow zone or red zone. It has to be clarified by the researcher or the service provider or any of the village leaders, so that the mothers can understand the reality of the child, whether he is in good position or in malnutrition. So we have implemented this Sishu Vikas chart and it has a good overcome, a good outcome. So I think in India, we all are going through a
What is the question? Be specific, please.
Biggest problem like malnutrition, and in India especially 7 out of 10 children are anemic and over 40% of the child are underweight as per the Hangama report. So I think it's a good initiative by you all discussing about child health and nutrition. It's an important component of a child, is growth, and for mainly 1000 days of a child is very important and crucial. So that much I can add.
Thank you, Avinash. So now, Dr. Das, we can jump into the
Vote of thanks.
vote of thanks. Yeah.
So thank you so much for a lively discussion talking about the national, state level and global situations on children and nutrition. So with profound gratefulness to all our experts who spared their time and could carve out a kind of 1.5 hours to be with us in this Zoom house. I would like to thank Sri Sujit Kumar ji, Honorable MP, for this initiative, and Sanjit Kumar ji for moderating the session, and everyone who participated, eminent speakers, Dr. Neelam, Kler, and Niladri Bhushan Parhi, Dr. Niladri Bhushan Parhi, Dr. Shariqua Yunus, Dr. Budhan Murmu sir, Mr. Souvic Biswal sir, Sanjit Kumar sir, everyone. So all of you, thank you so much. And we're planning to jot down the points discussed during the sessions, and it will be sent back to you, kind of a policy paper, a discussion paper we're planning in collaboration with Sri University, JV University, and Kalinga Kusum Foundation. Thank you so much for sparing the time and energy and coming and enlightening us and providing your insights and practical experience on the ground. Thank you, everyone. Grateful to you.
Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Shariqua. Thank you, Dr. Manju. Okay, thank you, Dr. Das, as well.